Hello, it's Simon Gray from Career Codex, back with another weekly video. And slightly different this week. It's not me on camera, but I'm going to deliver a presentation that I delivered down in London on Tuesday evening to ICAW, the Institute of Chartered Accountants in England and Wales. I'm an ICAW member, and there was a special event on Tuesday evening called ACA Prospects, which was all about helping people who've recently qualified navigate the job market successfully. So I delivered the presentation first. There were then some discussions on interview technique, employment opportunities, and what the economy means now for people in the job market, whether there's problems or whether there's opportunities. My firm belief is that there's always opportunities. You just have to go out there and look for them. So what I thought I'd do today on this week's video, is run through the presentation I gave. Whatever your sector, whatever your level, whatever your background, this will be relevant because building a personal career brand, or career brand if you like, is essential now to finding success both in business and in the job market. So let me start by asking you a quick question if you're watching this. And the quick question is this: when was the last time you did a Google search on yourself? So you pulled up the Google search box, you typed in your name and typed in your location and saw what popped up. Now, if you've not done this, I'd recommend you do it because the results might be quite surprising. They might be expected, but they could be quite surprising. And I do this periodically. The reason I do this, I put a lot of content out there. I want to see where that content's showing up, where it's ranking. And occasionally I'll be surprised at some old content that crops up and is ranking quite high. And it's quite important to know what will pop up if you Google search your name and your location. And why is it important? Well, more and more people nowadays are spending an increasing amount of time online researching before ever making a decision to do business with you or the organization you represent. And moreover, they're doing this before they decide whether they want to bring you in for an interview, shortlist you for an interview. And once you're in the interview process, if they're not done it at the start, then before they make the decision to hire, they're probably going to Google you and see what pops up online. And once something's online, if it's something you don't want online or something unexpected, then it's best that you know about it, because once it's online, it's very, very difficult to get rid of it, particularly if you haven't created it yourself. So what is a career brand? Well, a career brand is essentially what others say about you when you're not there, and it's really created in two ways. It's what you communicate to the world, so it's what you proactively put out there. But really, it's people's perception of what you put out there or what you don't put out there that really counts, because perception is reality. If you leave your career brand to chance, if you're not proactively communicating your message, then others may fill that gap with a perception of what they believe you are, who you are, what you stand for, and why it matters or why it doesn't matter to them. So it's quite important to proactively build a personal career brand, in my opinion, now for both business and future career success. So what I'm going to talk about on this video, going to last about 20-25 minutes. I'm going to talk about a number of things. How to build brand you. Yeah, brand you. Nobody else's brand. It's about your brand, and using capital letters there because it stands for something special, which I'll talk about shortly. How to get the attention of decision makers. So once you know who you're trying to reach, how do you get their attention? And then how to create something called inbound opportunities. Now, inbound is a marketing strategy. It's quite common now. I'm going to talk a little bit about marketing and explain where that terminology comes from and how you can apply it to your job search. And then finally, how to take proactive control of your message and, as a result, of your future. But if you're watching this for the first time, you've never come across my content before, just a very, very quick bit of background. My name's Simon Gray. I qualified as a chartered accountant back in 2000. Spent the next 10 years of my life in the recruitment industry. Actually fell into the recruitment industry, did 5-6 years as a consultant working for a business, and then in 2008, September 2008, I started my own recruitment company, which was probably one of the worst times to start a business because it was 2 weeks before Lehman Brothers collapsed, but persevered, grew that business, and exited that business back in 2013. Now I run a business called Career Codex, and I've written 3 books. And one of the books that I've written is Super Secrets of Successful Executive Job Search. And Successful Executive Job Search, or Super Secrets of Successful Executive Job Search, has done pretty well on Amazon. I think we're on about 35 5-star reviews now. And ICAW, who I spoke for on Tuesday evening, approached me and used content from my book to create a series of 10 podcasts entitled The ICAW Guide to Successful Job Search. And even if you're not in finance and accountancy, you can find these podcasts on my website, careercodex.com/podcast. What I do on these podcasts is I walk through content from the book that takes people from the very start of a job search, which isn't a CV in actual fact. The CV comes later. It's about how the job market environment really works, right the way through to how to handle the offer and negotiation stage. And on the podcast, I interview a number of guests. I interview a couple of employers in senior positions to get their perspective as to what they're looking for. And I also interview a senior consultant from Michael Page, big recruitment company, of course, to get his perspective. So if you'd like to check those out, careercodex.com /podcast, and you'll find those with the ICAW icon displayed. So, what is a personal brand? Well, personal brand, as I've said already, is what people say about you when you're not there, but it's also how they feel and think about you when they hear your name. So if they hear your name, what instantly is going to pop into their head? And it's really important, as I've said already, not to leave your personal brand to chance. So if you can proactively influence what other people think, how they feel, and what they say about you when you're not there, then that's a great thing to be able to do. But to be able to do that, you've got to decide on, know, and understand 2 major things. The first thing is you've got to understand your audience. You've got to know who your audience is. Who are you trying to reach? Who are you trying to communicate to? Now, you can't communicate your message to everybody, so your audience could be senior decision makers in a particular industry sector or niche or profession. If you're in a company you're happy with, it could be senior decision makers in that company if you're looking for promotion opportunities. Or if you're looking to make a move externally, then it's senior decision makers in target employers based on the industry sector that you're looking to specialize in and move within. The second thing is your message. So your message to your target audience has got to be on message. It's got to be really clear, concise, and it has to resonate with your target audience to get their attention. What that means is if you're communicating to a certain target audience with a message that they don't care about, well, they're not going to care about it, they're not going to listen. So your message really has to be targeted to get the attention of your target audience. And building brand you, I said the YOU stood for something. Building brand you is really about yelling out your uniqueness. Okay, being the same as everyone else, forget it. It's no good. It's not going to help you in the job market. What you need to do is think about not blending in, but standing out, because standing out in the job market is really what it's all about. And how do you do this? Well, it's about positioning yourself as the go-to person in your industry sector. It's also about getting off the fence, and this is important. It's about getting off the fence and communicating not only your expertise and experience, but also your opinion. People want to know your opinion, and sometimes I think nowadays people are afraid to give an opinion. But you've got expertise, you've got knowledge, that's great, but what's your opinion? What do you think about things? What makes you tick? What do you agree with? What do you disagree with? Because remember, you're not trying to communicate a message that will resonate with everybody. What you're trying to do is communicate a message that will resonate with a specific audience. And having an opinion is important in getting their attention. So to get promoted internally or to make a move externally, you have to stand out. And that starts with building a personal brand. So I said I'd talk a little bit about marketing. The aeroplane is supposed to represent 2 types of marketing, outbound and inbound, outbound flight, inbound flights. Hopefully you get where I'm coming from. And I wanted to talk a little bit about traditional marketing and something called outbound marketing. And this really is where you take a message and you try and get that message out to as wide audience as possible. And if you think about traditional TV advertising, that's generally what it's about. There is some targeting, of course. If you're going to advertise on TV, you can stipulate which program you want to advertise within, before or after. which will give you a clue as to the type of audience that are going to be sat there. But you can't be absolutely sure who's going to be sat there watching, and indeed if they are watching. Because if you're like me, what I tend to do with TV adverts, I fast forward through them if I've recorded the program, or if it's a live broadcast, then I'll go and make a drink or do something different. I don't bother to watch them, and I think many people are the same from people I talk to. So this is outbound marketing at its best, but in reality, in my opinion, it's marketing at its worst. Because with more and more sales messages out there bombarding us from every angle, social media, billboards, TV advertising, everywhere we go, there's marketing messages. As human beings, for our own sanity, what we've had to do is filter this excessive noise out. This is why we fast forward. This is why we put the sound down on adverts on the TV if it's a live broadcast. And the reason we try and filter this stuff out is because traditional marketing was about selling. But modern marketing has got nothing to do with selling, or shouldn't have anything to do with selling. It has instead everything to do with helping and educating. So as consumers now, we use the internet to research our purchases well in advance of making a purchase decision. So we're informed consumers. We know what we want and we know where to get it. And we're going to get it from the organizations that have built a relationship with us prior to us making a purchasing decision. And it's the brands nowadays that build this relationship along the way with us that isn't about selling, but is about helping and educating. It's about helping us resolve problems or aspire to a solution. And in doing this, brands that do this cleverly, they're really building a relationship with us emotionally, which means that when it's time to make a purchase decision, we naturally think of that particular brand. And this really is inbound marketing, which attracts customers to us when they're ready to buy. And the analogy, of course, or the relevant piece here in the job market is this. If you have an inbound marketing strategy, you're going to attract employers to you when they're ready to hire. And just back to inbound marketing in the real world, in the perhaps the retail world. Think about your last major purchase. What influenced you, and what prompted you to take action? Was it an inbound or an outbound marketing message? I would hazard that probably it was an inbound marketing message, because that A was the message that would get through. B, that was the message that would build a relationship with you and connect with you emotionally, and as a result, that's probably the message you were more likely to respond to. So how do you build a personal brand? Okay, well, building a personal brand or career brand for life is a lesson really in inbound marketing. It's not about selling, it's about helping and educating. So if you're internal in your current organization and looking for promotion opportunities, or you're looking for an external job move in the job market, it's the same thing. It's about being helpful, interesting, and engaging. And I know that many people find this uncomfortable because it's about putting themselves out there. It's about putting their opinion out there and content out there. And for many, it's a step out of the comfort zone. And what's your comfort zone? Well, a comfort zone is the people you know, the places you go, and the things you're used to doing. So if you're communicating a message out there that's helping and educating, well, you're probably doing that in front of people you don't know, in a place you don't know, and it's something you've not done in the past. So it's kind of a three-legged stool of being uncomfortable, but is actually something very important that you should be doing to build your personal brand. So, building a personal brand, putting your message out there, yeah, I understand there's a natural fear of doing that. But in actual fact, sometimes when we face fear, it's a real clue that that's where we should push on. That's where, if we do conquer that fear, that's where we find the multitude of opportunities, the new opportunities on the other side. And let me tell you a bit of a personal story on this, because I like to tell stories. I like to bring things to life. 3 years ago, I was terrified of public speaking, and on Tuesday evening I was in front of an audience of probably about 125 people in a big room on stage, so elevated up on stage with a lectern and a microphone, with everybody looking at me. And 3 years ago I never would have done this. I was terrified. But I realised that by not doing public speaking or being afraid of public speaking, I was missing out on potentially a multitude of opportunities. So I made a decision that enough was enough. I got myself a public speaking coach who worked with me for a little bit of time. And then I practiced. And the first, even after the coaching, the first few times weren't particularly good. It was a bit clunky, it was a bit shaky, quite literally, in terms of my voice and the notes that I was holding. But I persevered through these bumps in the road. I didn't stop, I kept going. And gradually I got better and I got more confidence, because confidence, where does confidence come from? Confidence is rarely born out of theory. What it's born out of is experience. So, you have to go through the uncomfortable time to get to the comfortable zone, to break out of your comfort zone, to stay on the periphery of it long enough, to step out of it, to then increase the size of your comfort zone so you get used to doing what you find challenging in the first place. And by persevering, by staying outside my comfort zone, by delivering presentations, and initially some of them weren't particularly good, what it meant is that in November last year, when I had the opportunity to take on a new challenge, this was a charity event run by the local newspaper here. I did a stand-up comedy challenge for charity in front of 350 people on a very big stage in a very big venue, and it was an 8-minute set. Now, it wasn't very funny. But that's really not what it was about for me. It really was about getting comfortable doing something uncomfortable. Public speaking, not comedy, I did that once, but public speaking, as Tuesday night is an example of, gives me a regular opportunity to communicate my personal brand. So if you don't do public speaking as yet, and you're turning down opportunities in the public speaking arena, then maybe think about some of the advice I've given there. Maybe think about getting some help and some training, because I can promise you that the more you do it, the better you get, and actually you increase your reach, and people start to ask you and even pay you to speak. So it's a great thing to be able to promote your personal brand through public speaking, because you have an audience, you can make an emotional connection with them there and then because they're in the room. Great thing to be able to do. And if I can do it, anyone can do it, because 3 years ago I would not do it. I would run a mile from even thinking about doing this stuff. So don't worry if building a personal brand seems a bit scary. If it's something new for you, that's just a natural thing. But by practice, perseverance, and the action of doing, then building a personal brand consistently over time will become a natural part of who you are. Now, there's a real big game changer when it comes to building a personal brand, and this is LinkedIn. Social media, of course, is important, but when it comes to job search, LinkedIn is probably the most important platform, certainly the current time. And I come across people all the time that ask me for advice on LinkedIn. I've done a couple of webinars on LinkedIn in the past. And some people are nervous of it because they see it as, I'm going to put my information out there. Anyone can find it. But that's really the whole point. You need to be found. You need to exist in cyberspace, as I call it, because otherwise you're going to miss out on potentially a multitude of opportunities. And I mentioned earlier that when I started my recruitment business back in 2008, it was a difficult time. The financial crisis was on. Didn't have a website in the beginning, and people found me through LinkedIn and through the messages I conveyed through LinkedIn. So LinkedIn was a really important tool for me to get my business going. It's an important tool in my business career codex now, and it's absolutely, most definitely an important tool if you are active in the job market. So I haven't got enough time to talk about everything you should be doing on LinkedIn. I'm going to assume some knowledge, but there is a webinar on my video page on the website careercodex.com/video if you'd like to find out more. But I'm going to talk about 3 things that are important and things you can do from today to start to communicate your personal brand. And just before I do that, think about how employers make recruitment decisions. Do they go to job boards first off? Do they go to professional recruiters first off? Well, you'll know if you've read any of my books that that's not necessarily the case. There's no recommendation there. There is a cost involved. It can take longer. And what employers tend to do is they'll go out to have a couple of conversations first off. So they'll talk to their immediate network. They'll then talk to their extended network. And they'll ask the question, who do you know? Who can you recommend? But often, and certainly in the past, this line of inquiry would dry up quite quickly. And that's why having a recruitment business could be such a lucrative proposition, because if you've got a database of people, then people would pay you, employers would pay you to get access to that database. But think what LinkedIn has done. LinkedIn has given everyone access to a real-time database, which is always up to date. Why? because the individuals behind the profile have an incentive to keep it up to date. So when I had my recruitment company, one of the big challenges was trying to keep the database up to date, and it was never ever up to date. It's impossible. But LinkedIn is probably as up to date as it ever can be, because each individual is empowered and encouraged by LinkedIn to keep their profile up to date. So if you don't have a presence on LinkedIn and you're not doing these 3 things, then I'd encourage you to think about doing them to build your personal brand, so that you can be found by employers who are interested to talk to you. And often, employers will look at LinkedIn and search on LinkedIn before going to job boards or recruiters. So if you have a presence on LinkedIn, quite often you can be approached or tapped on the shoulder about an opportunity before that opportunity ever enters the public domain. And when I say public domain, what I mean here is publicly advertised on job boards or by professional recruiters, which can lead to higher probability opportunities because there's less people in the game at that point. And this is the space I call the hidden market. And as I say, if you've read any of my books, I talk about this extensively. This is one of the most important areas of successful job search at whatever level you're at, but particularly the executive level, that you need to understand so that you can attack the job market in the right way. Otherwise, you're potentially missing out on lots of opportunities that you'll never, ever, ever see. So you've got to communicate your personal brand consistently. This generates inbound career opportunities, and the first thing you can do is status updates. So status updates are essentially, they can be curated content. So you can see an article that you think is interesting. It interests you. It's relevant to your target audience. So going back to what I said earlier, if you're looking for a role in the technology space, if it's an article on technology, something cutting edge in technology, the chances are that might resonate with your target audience. So you take this curated content, but you add your opinion. Yeah, what do you think? Why should somebody read it? And then you share it with your connections on LinkedIn. Now, the more connections you have on LinkedIn, the more reach you have on LinkedIn, more visibility you have on LinkedIn. And that's important. I'm not talking about that specifically today, but you should be active on the platform, building connections with your target audience. Second thing you could do are publish posts, and there's a really big clue from LinkedIn that published posts are important. And the big clue is this: at the top of your profile, underneath your professional headline and photograph, that's where published posts sit. So that's LinkedIn saying that published posts are important. So if you're not publishing posts, then potentially you're missing an opportunity. And this is where you communicate created content. So essentially your blog about your sector, which you communicate to your target audience, a message that will resonate with them. So, if you're looking for a role in the technology space, blogging and creating published posts about technology, problems in the technology space and solutions in the technology space is helping and educating your target audience. And what you can then do is you can take the URL of your published post and you can share that in groups. And groups for me are the most important thing on LinkedIn. And if you think about LinkedIn as a big ocean, and I'll use a fishing analogy here, if LinkedIn is a massive ocean, which it is, if you want to catch a salmon, where do you go? Well, as somebody who understands fishing, well, you go to the salmon pond or the salmon lake. If you want a trout, you go to the trout lake. And what LinkedIn essentially is a big ocean, but it has various ponds or lakes within it, and these are groups. So people in groups have a common industry sector, a common interest, a common goal, a common aspiration, a common cause. And if you can find groups that are relevant to your target audience, to your target sector, it's a great place for you to start to engage. Communicate, listen. Well, listen first, then communicate your content and engage in the conversation. If you're not sure which groups to be in, if you look at and you're active in the job market, if you look at a target employer, senior decision maker in a target employer, have a look at which LinkedIn groups they're in, and that's a pretty good clue that you should probably be in those groups as well. So LinkedIn groups, absolutely essential, and you can be in up to 50 groups. My advice is join 50, but be active in about 10. You can't be active in 50 consistently. So in groups, what do? Well, you listen first, and the analogy here is this. If you go to a networking event, what you don't do is walk in the room. I'm talking about a physical face-to-face networking event. You don't walk in the room and shout your message to anyone who listen. What you do is you walk in, you listen to what people are talking about, and you start to engage in the conversation. It's exactly what you need to do in groups. Like some people's comments, comment on some people's comments or posts, and then start to share your own content and invite feedback. And let me tell you a real life story from for a number of years back when I was in the recruitment game. I was asked to recruit a senior IT auditor by one of my PLC clients, and I had none of these people on my database. They were like hen's teeth back then, and probably still are. So what I did, I went onto LinkedIn, and I went to an IT audit group and joined that group, posted a message in there and said, can anyone help me please? I'm looking for this type of person in this location. Somebody popped up and said, oh, you might want to talk to these 5 people. I contacted these 5 people individually with a personal message. They were known to this person in the group because they'd been active in the group. And I eventually spoke to a guy called Neil. I met him. I put him in front of my client. He got the job. He's been in this business about 7 years now, been promoted a couple of times. Would he have got that opportunity? Probably not. The fact that he was active in groups made him visible to me, which made me get in touch. So yeah, the point is here, if he wasn't in the group, would he have got the opportunity? And the answer is probably not. In fact, probably definitely not. But yeah, he's been in that role for some time now, has done really well. So you've got to be online, you've got to exist in cyberspace, but you've got to exist in the right place and communicate the right message to get attention. And although we live in a world nowadays where we expect, instant gratification, technology's helped us with this. If we do something, if we search online, we want that information instantaneously. We want our food faster, we want results faster. But unfortunately, when it comes to job search and inbound marketing and building a personal brand, things take time. And this is really see me, like me, trust me, hire me, or promote me if you're looking for a job internally. Now, the mistake many people make when they come onto the job market is they take their CV, they put it out there on job boards and with recruiters, and they're saying, see me, and hire me as a result of my CV. But unfortunately, that's a little bit like traditional advertising. It's a bit like selling. Here's my CV, here's my experience, hire me right now. And if you've ever put your CV or resume out on a job board or placed it with a recruiter and not heard back quickly enough, then you'll probably know it can be quite frustrating, disempowering, and you can lose confidence. And this is the situation many of my clients are in when they first approach me at Career Codex for help. So I know that this is a common thing. So what you do with a personal brand, you're communicating content in front of a target audience that educates, helps, is entertaining, is interesting. You have an opinion. So people start to see you, they start to like your content, they start to trust your message, and when it comes time to hire, they'll knock on your door as opposed to anybody else's. They'll at least want to have a conversation with you. So really communicating your personal brand, it takes time. It's about having a clear target audience in mind, delivering a clear message that will resonate, and then doing this consistently. And let me finish with a real life story, because I think this really illustrates the point. And through my business Career Codex, I do this all the time. I build a personal brand. It's me behind the company name Career Codex. I'm happy to promote a personal brand because I think it's important. The job search market or job search education, it's a people business. And I've embraced the power of communicating a personal brand and seen some fantastic results. And I share a weekly blog post, podcast, and YouTube video. And I do this each and every week without fail. I know who my target audience is, and I have an idea as to what their problems or aspirations are by listening to them. I listen to them in groups. I talk to them one-to-one. And I ask them for their questions. I ask them what their challenges are. And then I create content that will answer those questions or resolve those challenges, help them aspire to what it is they're looking to aspire to. And the power of a personal brand, I guess, really hit home to me a few months back when I secured a new senior executive client based in the USA. Now, I never met this guy. We weren't connected on LinkedIn at the time, but he'd searched online to a solution to his job search challenge. He was looking to make an executive transition out of one sector into another at a very senior level. Difficult place to be. Searched online, read one of my blog posts, read another blog post. He then seen, I think, a couple of my videos. He then bought my book, Super Secrets of Successful Executive Job Search, through Amazon, read the book cover to cover, and then he got in touch with me. He sent me a LinkedIn connection request with a personal message. We had a bit of dialogue back and forth, then we jumped on a call, had a chat, and he signed up pretty quickly to my Executive Edge program. And I worked with him just about to finish working with him. Worked with him for 3 months to help him define, find, and secure the executive job he really wanted. And what was quite interesting is that when he signed up for my program, while he was on the program, I asked him, before you signed up, did you think about going anywhere else? Did you talk to anyone else about their offering their service? And he looked at me and said, well, no, I didn't. And I think he was quite surprised. We were on the go-to meeting, so I could see his facial expression. But for me, that was not a surprise, because through my blogging, podcasting, and videos, I'd built a connection with this guy over a period of time. So, with the principles of inbound marketing, I trusted in the fact that when it was time for him to engage a professional to help him, there was a pretty high chance that he would come to me and me alone. And that's exactly what happened. And that was the power of that see me, like me, trust me, hire me relationship build, which led him to work with me. And think about it, in the States, in the USA, there's probably hundreds, thousands of people that he could have spoken to. I'm based over in the UK. We've worked together remotely, but it's worked really well. And what I'm pleased to say is that within the space of 10 weeks, I've shown him how to do a multitude of different things in the executive job market. And in doing that, part of it is building his personal brand and communicating it to his audience. He's yelled out his uniqueness. And within 10 weeks, he uncovered an opportunity in the hidden market, which he wouldn't have otherwise have known about. He's been on an interview and he's been offered that position. So that really is a story that illustrates the power of a personal brand. I'm in business. I secured a new client through my personal brand. I then showed my clients how to secure their next executive job and make an executive transition, and a difficult one at that, at his level, and also looking to move sector. But he's done it, and he did that in part by communicating his personal brand. So that's it, and I'm not going to take any questions because this is not a live broadcast. But that really was the essence of the presentation that I delivered on Tuesday evening down in London. If you've watched this, you found it useful, if you'd like to connect to me on LinkedIn, my username is Simon Gray ACA. Send me a personal message. Let me know that you've watched this, what you thought. Let me know if you've got any questions. You can also head over to careercodex.com, and there you can subscribe to my weekly newsletter. I include a blog post, podcast and video every week. And there's lots of historic content on there as well that you might find useful. If you require a bit more help, then of course you can complete the get in contact page, get in touch page on the website. Get in touch with me there, and we can be speaking fairly quickly. Or you can use my LinkedIn profile, of course, to send me a direct message. But I hope that was useful. Personal brand is becoming increasingly important because it's the way we transact nowadays. It's the way pretty much everyone transacts. We're all researching before making purchasing or hiring decisions. So having some control and some proactive control of what's out there is extremely important indeed. So I'm Simon Gray. This has been a broadcast weekly video from Career Codex. Until next time, take care, and I'll talk to you soon.